IDMonSite, our new live stream series where our cooperation partners in our target region, and I'm very happy to have today with us Ivanka Popović, who is Rector at the University of Belgrade in Serbia and also President of the Danube Rectors Conference. Thank you very much for being with us, Ivanka.
Sebastian, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for IDM, it's now 14 days since we have had to close the office and spend our time at home, try to work from home. How is it in the case of Serbia? How is it in your university? When did you have to stop everything and turn your life completely around?
The change started for us also 2 weeks ago. We closed the university, making it open only for minimal operations in terms of maintaining the building and also to, let's say, make sure that the providing the minimum. Time we've learned a lot. Now that the university seems to be completely online from before. Some are new. We've had to adapt just to remind your viewers that the very large system, we have a little bit less than 100,000 students, 31 faculties, 11 research institutes, and as we don't have a campus, all of our members are dispersed over Belgrade, which is logistically quite complex and is also related to the fact that the faculties and institutes are very independent because they are a separate legal entity, more or less as a confederation. But as a confederation, we are used to compromising and really making decisions that are for the benefit of the whole community. And so when we realized that we were heading in the direction that the university would close, and this already started a little bit before when it was clear that the dorms were starting to empty, that the students already before the closing of the university were starting to go home. We set up some guidelines, and so far the exchange of practices has been very, very good. And I have to say that 2 weeks ago, the first week of the lockdown, I was coming to the rector's office every day, coordinating the heading in the right direction. In this second week, I can say quite proudly that I did not have any need to go, that I have managed all of my administrative duties electronically and online. Also, might as well, because I am still teaching. I did not. I took this post. So, all in all, even though we're a large and very often very sluggish system, the response time to this situation has been actually very, very short. And I am very proud of the efforts put in by both teaching and non-teaching staff, especially the deans of the faculties and the directors of the institutes.
So the numbers affected cases have been comparatively low in Serbia as of now when we look at other affected countries, especially the European Union. Do you think it's going to stay this way due to the fact that measures have been put into place, or is it going to change in the foreseeable future? And what will it mean then for Serbian society when we have more and more cases of people that are getting sick?
Well, I think the burden on societies in general is tremendous. And of course, for those countries who are economic standing, we have yet to see the consequences of the challenges that we are facing. And initially, we can say that there was a limited number of positive, negative to the virus. So the number of people that were being tested was quite low, and already I think when it was clear that the symptoms were already visible, so the numbers were not so high. In the efforts were successful to procure more kits. There has been extensive aid from various sides. I think I'm grateful to all of those who helped for the procurement of these kits and for all types of medical aids. There was assistance from the European Union, from Norway, and from China.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the biggest shipments have been coming from China. And also there is a team of Chinese doctors that arrived last week in Serbia, and they will stay another week, where they are actually monitoring how we are handling the crisis here. And the strategy now, with more kits available, is that more people will be, even those not showing apparent symptoms of the disease. And as was foreseen, the number of cases is going up. Yesterday, we had a bit more than 450 cases, and actually now at 3 o'clock there should be the results, the newest results, where I'm expecting a higher sum. I will check soon to see what those numbers are. And unfortunately, we also have 8 dead. For such a small country, this is serious. Let's say the epicenter of the disease is in Belgrade, although there are 4 other towns in central and southern Serbia that, and also to the north, which have a serious, let's say, concentration of ill people. So we see that things will expand. But on the other hand, through the more intensive testing of people, I think what the government is trying to do is to implement a strategy of keeping people at home. There are severe measures, so as trying to curb the spread. And this way, moving the peak, or let's say flattening the peak, that the number of new cases that will be occurring will be manageable by our medical system. And this strategy meant that we have slowly had less opportunity to move. Public transportation in Belgrade and in other towns. We also now have a curfew that was first from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And now it's actually till 5 p.m. After 5 p.m. leave your apartment. So in this respect, these are quite, as I said, severe measures. Also, shopping centers have closed. More or less, the only operational shops are those that carry food, gas stations. So we see this measures that would be maybe extreme by some standards, where maybe people are not, or countries are not resorting to such measures. But I think in this country, this type of approach results. But we have yet to see what will be the effects on health, but also on the economy, because I think many small companies, small businesses will have great to survive this period. And I think it's anticipated that this lockdown, I don't know how to call it, better way, should last for at least another 2 weeks, maybe 4. And so it's expected maybe by the end of April that we will see the first results of this.
Right. You have mentioned that there has been given a lot of support by the European Union, but also by China. I mean, if we look at the past 2 decades, the European Union has donated around 200 million worth of medical equipment and has also given loans up to 250 million euros to that sector. But China is now, in what I gather from the news out of Serbia, that they are actually the ones who are supporting, whereas the European Union again is slow, is split, very bureaucratic. has imposed restrictions for export that we can now work around. But nevertheless, is the European Union as it is viewed in Serbia again, Western Balkans, and again repeating past mistakes here?
Well, I think there have been some unfortunate moments in the past few months. Of course, it's very clear that the European Union is net contributor to Serbia in terms of advancing almost everything, and also the medical sector. This, even though being information that is promoted by the European Union, Serbia is somehow not made sufficiently public, or let's say the public at large is somehow not absorbing, not taking in this information. And that's why the first response of the European Union, that it would limit or has restrictions selling of medical supplies, was received very badly here. And regardless of, afterwards, it became clear that first there was initial 7.5 million euros of aid by the European Union to Serbia, and now that Serbia, in the future, allotment of aid will be treated, if I understand, almost equally as the European Union. This thing came with a bit of a, let's say, time lag that was sufficient for those who are anti-European to really make their point up, not caring enough about Serbia and the Western Balkans. I think it's a shame, and it will be difficult to correct. As I said, the sums of money that have been coming into Serbia from the European Union have been more than impressive and more than benevolent. On the other hand, Serbia is part of China's One Belt, One Road program, and Serbia has been quite active in this program and has received quite a lot of attention from China. And I think Serbia is one of the stepping stones of China into Europe, and there are many projects infrastructural that have been run by the Chinese. And as part of this assistance to Serbia, and the fact that actually that Serbia responded as soon as the epidemic in China, in a way that only a small country can, but with some, let's say, what could be just a formal bit of aid, but as much as Serbia could help. And the fact that the Serbian Prime Minister immediately traveled to China in those days, early on in the epidemic, which was obviously a politically good move. Whether it was wise in terms of health, I don't know.
Right.
Anyway, the results of these political moves have now actually given very strong support by the Chinese to Serbia, although we are fully aware that the Chinese government is providing aid to a lot of countries that have been affected by the virus, Italy, Spain, and others. So China will definitely benefit in this period, that even though the virus originated in China, the way that the Chinese are now handling themselves and operating at a global level, I think China's influence will surely increase. And I think that the Serbian medical system is now very carefully listening to the experiences of this Chinese medical team that is here now.
Yeah, if we look at the state of emergency, we see, apart from the curfew that has been put into place, of course, effects on many other things. Amongst others, actions have been postponed.
Yes.
So we see in a number of EU countries and non-EU countries that there are strict measures put into place. Civil liberties are limited. At the situation, but there's always the danger that once you have that put into place, are they actually going to be rolled back, these restrictions? What would you say is in Serbia going to be? So if I'm not mistaken, the state of emergency can last up to 90 days and then be prolonged again up
For
to
now,
180 days. Is there going to be the danger that this is going to be exploited, and will we see elections soon?
well, Sebastian, I think your guess is as good as mine, but Serbia is a very fragile democracy, and it doesn't really have a very good track record of being a very open and tolerant country. So I think what we can see now is a tremendous test for democracy.
Mhm.
Now I think the government has taken these draconic measures out of a true interest to try to curb the epidemic or the pandemic.
Yeah.
Um, how this will reflect and how the government will handle itself in the months to come will really then, I think, dictate the results of the election. Because if the government is wise and use the power that this absolute power that is now concentrated in the hands of a few people,
Yeah.
I think that the rules expect a landslide victory in these
Mhm.
elections. If there are serious issues left unattended, I think the situation might change.
Mm.
Uh, the whole situation in Serbia is complicated by the fact that, as you know, countries in this region have tremendous brain drain, and people who are working abroad with various types of contracts, and many of them are seasonal workers or employees who spend their 90 days in Eastern Europe, earn some money, and then come home and then wait to go again.
Mm.
What has now happened, because many of these people, once they complete their contract, they don't have any, don't have a place to live, and they want to come home.
Yeah.
So you now have thousands and thousands of people pouring back into Serbia, where the system is already overloaded with the existing health threat to the population, but you have had tens of thousands of people streaming back into Serbia. Uh, this was initially easier because there were no controls. Now we are seeing also, as the borders are closing, becoming more difficult for them to come home. But
Mhm.
when they do, depending on the country that they're coming from, they either have 15 or 28 days of isolation, so that it's certain that are not.
Wow.
It depends on the country.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't want to say which ones,
Right.
but from the ones, Italy definitely. So
Okay.
uh, this situation, these people have to be somewhere.
Mm.
Before the airport in Belgrade closed, people were more with contact information and told to spend this self-isolation time at home.
Mhm.
Now people that are coming across the border are being shuttled to designated locations where they will spend this time of self-isolation. This is also causing a lot of distress and nervousness,
Mm.
because these facilities are limited capabilities, and we as a country are not really equipped to handle such a situation. So this is also something that is causing or creating additional tension and pressure, because not only do you have a health system that needs to cater to its own population, you have this, let's say, transient is a bad word to use,
Mm.
but saying that a population that is moving uh, forth that they are also now coming large numbers. And I think this is also one of the main worries of the government is how to handle this population. And I think they have quite a difficult time. And this then surpasses any political aspects that one can discuss, because now we're talking about uh, how to arrange this and to make sure that these people that are coming back are not bringing in new clusters of disease.
Well, at IDM, care a lot about neighborly relations. So I want to ask you the question about one of the neighbors of Serbia. So recently, the government in Kosovo collapsed. Is there any influence on the discussions that are going on right now, or is this absolutely no priority within the discourse happening in Kosovo at the moment?
Well, as you know, Kosovo is also, I think, more than 90, I don't know the number for today, people that are positive for the coronavirus. So I think Kosovo is also faced with a very serious health situation and a challenge that I'm sure they have great difficulty handling. So I can see both governments at the moment really not being focused on a matter which is usually the prime political topic in the region. I presume that there will be some discreet diplomacy. I know that there are, I'm sure, regular communications between the relevant players from the United States and from the European Union, the local politicians in the region. But I think anything that would be even remotely similar to a serious sit-down is now really foreseeable in the near future. Although I into any details, obviously the collapse of the Kosovo government came as a consequence of not maybe adhering to what was arranged about lifting of these taxes from folks from Serbia and Herzegovina in Kosovo. So obviously something is happening, but as long as we have a technical government in Kosovo, they will not be able to take any serious decisions. So we have to, I think, wait for elections in both Serbia and Kosovo to see how elections will be finalized. And I think at the moment there is an expectation at a global level for these negotiations to finally come to some kind of fruition and completion.
So let's come back to and the academia. You mentioned that there have been tremendous amounts of work been put into place to transit very quickly from one day to another, to be going on with your daily business, to switching to remote and distance learning and teaching. You said you are still teaching yourself.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit more how this is putting maybe challenges, but also opportunities, professors, lecturers, and the students at the moment at your university, and especially also your faculty?
Well, I would like to start from the opportunities because I think also focusing now on the studies, regardless if you're approaching them as a teacher or as a student, is also a wonderful way to distract you maybe from the potential stress of just following the numbers about the coronavirus, because I think people can very easily be sucked into just looking. It's like a binge on data, and which actually in the end makes you quite anxious. So becoming engaged in your time in a better way that can also rather rather than just giving you a headache from listening to the news.
Right.
Um, uh, I have to say that the experience with online learning in Serbia has existed, I think, now for 2 decades. On the other hand, it hasn't been really started in the 2000s. Online learning was a topic for many of these projects, and there was a lot of capacity building and education regarding online teaching. Then adopted by only a few places at least the University of Belgrade. I cannot say about other universities, and mostly using the online platform Moodle. Moodle is the most popular, uh, let's say, online platform, and especially for some humanities faculties, this has been actually the platform of choice, which has provided students with digitized literature in a way that made, let's say, the situation very favorable as to not have too many students interested that might exist in the library. So huge steps forward were made, and actually our faculty of philology, which is a very large institution, actually has 1,800 online Moodle modules or segments. So
Oh, wow.
it's really impressive what they have there. On the other hand, some faculties have had actually no interest in online, and what we are trying to do is development where we are insisting on at least simple email exchange of relevant information and communication with between students and teachers, and also Skype and Zoom as easily accessible video conferencing without. I don't wish to exclude any other users of this equipment, but to give you an idea of what we're talking about. This has been really taken on very easily and readily by teachers. On the other hand, I have to say that faculty have long-term experience using Google Classroom and also the Microsoft Teams equipment.
Yeah.
So these are also available, and I think now maybe it's a jump start or a kick start, but some faculties are now selecting one of these two as to be their uh, form of choice. I have to say that more expensive options like Canvas or other platforms are simply not a choice for our faculties because at the moment they can't afford them. I don't know in the future how things will be, so we're going with the stuff that's readily available. And I exist using Google Docs, Google Drive, or similar tools by others has also provided an easy way for teachers to connect their students. And just on Tuesday, our vice deans for education from all of the faculties had a video conference together where they exchanged their experience in this first 10 days of working like this. And most of them were very enthusiastic, and they were even more thrilled by the response of the students. We had the feeling almost that the students were now more engaged than they are usually.
Okay.
Because they are digital natives, and they are feeling much more comfortable using all of this than some of us who are maybe not so digitally comfortable as they are.
Right.
So I'm sure that there will be some very good outcomes from this, because the experiences of the teachers will be maintained in the periods to come to attain, or like to really see much more of at our university. This is blended learning, which would probably be an optimal. As far as the complications are concerned, we now see teachers who have enough time to sit on their computer and have proper exchanges with their students. In under normal circumstances the case, and I think that's why many teachers shunned away or shied away from this type of education because they just didn't see themselves spending hours in front of the computer chatting or writing emails to their students. I think they're just simply not willing to do that. So it's yet to be seen how long this goodwill will maintain itself. So I see this as a possible, um, let's say, challenge in the learning forms could really and then discuss and to pass on an open discussion with the students. And I'm hoping that this benefit will be seen in the near future. The problem, of course, is that we have to wait for some practical issues. There are some things that are done in a laboratory or specialized working environment that you cannot do online. So when this let's say a pandemic or epidemic in Serbia is curbed, that we can go back to our buildings and to our labs, then we will be faced with the challenge of how to make a very condensed experimental period for our students to actually learn the skills that are necessary for some of their professions.
Mm-hmm. And too early to say, but is there the possibility, apart from the limitations that you mentioned in certain subjects where you simply need to be in the lab, in the field or whatsoever, is there the possibility to uphold this type of learning and teaching also over a longer period of time, if that should be necessary? Would the students be able to continue their studies in the regular way, or would they lose this semester if the state of emergency is prolonged for 180 days, for instance?
Well, let's hope that this doesn't happen.
Of course.
What I'm certain is that what we're trying to do, we definitely want to save this semester.
Mm-hmm.
The students, I think, are even more aware of this need than the teachers because we need to maintain a continuity education. The semester might be prolonged if necessary to provide time for this type of training that the students need. There will be some kind of, let's say, rearranging of activities so that in the autumn some of this work can be done. We will definitely not allow our students to suffer and to skip any part of the education that is accredited study program. So we are working very closely with the Ministry of Education to make sure that we provide the students with the best opportunities and that they do not miss out. Unfortunately, as a region that has had some other experiences where there was a break in the teaching process, in the spring of 1999, we also had a semester that was a very abnormal one, and I think we will maybe experiences from that time how we overcame the fact that the students were physically not in the classroom again, and considering that the remote possibilities of communication at that time were much less than they are today, we can be much more successful now.
Okay. Now, you are also president of the Danube Rectors Conference, which is a university network of 64 universities in the Danube region. I guess a lot of in the Danube region are facing similar challenges that you described, but also see similar, maybe, what would you say on what you heard from your colleagues within the region, how they are tackling this? Is there exchange of best practices or experiences so far? And what do you think is the possibility of this network to foster exchange of best practices and experiences, maybe?
Well, I think definitely what we can do is take up the advantage of the fact that the DRC exists and really learn from each other's experiences. And I hope that we will set up such a possibility of communicating best practices among the members of the network. I'm sure there are many challenges that are vary from university to university because, first of all, the members of the DRC are universities of varying size, with missions and with different organizational structure. I think those that have campus type organizations where you also have dormitories within the university are facing very special challenges at this time, as opposed to those working more in an urban where the student services are dislocated from the faculties. At any rate, I think one aspect is how to maintain the health of the students, how to keep them safe. The other aspect is how to maintain the quality of the teaching. Monitor this in a way that does not seem like you are overseeing what the teachers are doing and providing them with support. And finally, how to make the administration work in a way that will maintain everything running smoothly. Because I think now is the moment when we should mention that the revenues of universities will surely be smaller in the months to come, and that all universities will be feeling the pinch of whether they are receiving money from the state budget or whether they are players on the open market. I just think that some priorities will be different for many governments after the pandemic is over, and that many universities will time. They've been having a tough time already,
Yeah.
coming from various other economic situations that have been present in globally and in Europe. So I think each rector or dean will be really very, very cautious how they will be spending their money and see where fresh money will be coming from. That's why I think also that let's say the challenge of getting European funding will be even more relevant now. The passing rate for most European programs is such that it's turning people off because it's so low. But I think now, with the situation we are faced with, people will apply for European funding even more than before because uh, they will want to try because there won't be other opportunities available.
Right. Implications on extracurricular activities through the virus. The European University Games were supposed to take place in Belgrade. Now you said to me before we started the live stream that they have been postponed. Can you give information on what has been discussed there?
Yes, I don't know how many of you are aware of the existence of the European University Sports Association. It's a classic European institution that has the mission to promote student sports, which means the results are important, but I think this exchange of students and building friendships is actually the competitions. And so every even year there is something that is called the European University Games, and during the odd there are individuals in various sports. So 2020, second half of the date for the European University Games in Belgrade. And we've been monitoring very carefully the governing body of EUSA, also the organizing committee of the Games here in Serbia, that is by the Prime Minister, on what to do and how to do it. And for a long time, we were of the opinion really good to try to have the games as the games of hope.
Yeah.
To keep, let's say, the spirit of the sports and exchanges alive. But once the Olympic Committee, International Olympic Committee decided, I think also with the heavy heart, postpone the games in Tokyo, it became clear that we had another option if we wanted to maintain the positive image of the games. I also have to say that the student dormitories, which will be the so-called student city, which will be the sports village, the accommodation for the students, is a potential place for potential patients. So we really don't know how these things will develop. I hope that this will not come into play, but you never know. So I think postponing the games by 1 year, they will be in the summer of 21. The exact date will be provided soon. And also the Rectors Conference is dedicated to university sports, will also be postponed by 1 year. And I hope that in 1 year's time there will be, I think, a lot of positive energy, as always, contribute to society. Those games in 1 year's time will be even greater than the ones that we've had so far.
Yeah. Well, Ivanka, thank you so much for taking the time and talking with me about in Serbia and especially for universities. I hope that we will be able to return back to normal business very, very soon, and that we also will be able to hold our DRC annual meeting, which is supposed in November in Uzhhorod, Ukraine, so that we can see each other at the latest personally again then. You know, this time brings a lot of differences. This live stream is one of these new experiences also. But it gives us the opportunity to drive certain things forward that maybe have been neglected. And sometimes it's nice to have the possibility to just use video conferencing to get certain things done. But then there are people that you really like to meet in person, because there is a lot of things that you normally will not be able to discuss on the side when you just do that. And you're certainly one of those people. It's always great to meet you, and always great to talk about the different challenges that we are facing in the Danube region. So thank you very much again, Ivanka, for doing this, and to you, all the best to your university. I hope that your faculty will stay positive with all the challenges, that your students will stay positive with all the challenges. And we at IDM will continue this series already next Tuesday. We're going to have a look to Croatia, same channel here, 3 o'clock, but we will also announce it through our various websites, social media channels, and so on and so forth. Ivanka, thank you very much, and I hope to talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. It was a pleasure, and I hope that all of our universities in the region will be empowered through the experiences of these hard times. Thank you very much.
Thank you.